The technology was beginning to take hold. The markets are huge today. Radar screen, the Elliot Wave, Fibonacci extensions and retracements. Good trading doesn't happen overnight. Where's your profit potential? You must use risk control on every trade. I've got to be active in the market.
Welcome everyone to TradeStation and another edition of our Trader Interview Series. My name is Michael Burke and I'm Vice President of Client Training here at TradeStation. And today we welcome Bennett McDowell, veteran trader, author, and educator. Bennett is the founder of TradingCoach.com. He's also an expert in the application and analysis of Elliot Wave Theory, and I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit about that. He's also a featured speaker at many trading seminars and symposiums, and of course, you can find Bennett Wednesday mornings hosting Morning Market Briefing. And he also hosts many other events for us here at TradeStation. Bennett, thank you so much for joining us today.
Michael, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So Bennett, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the markets.
Well, sure. Let's go back first to really quite a ways back when I first graduated college. I went to Syracuse University and got a degree in economics in the finance area, and then got out and actually went into the Navy after I got out, served as an officer in the Navy. And when I got out of there, I went down on Wall Street, and I had quite a few friends in the industry, and this was back when I was in New York, and got involved with some of the wirehouses there. I worked for some municipal bond firms like J.J. Kenney, went on to work for Morgan Stanley and so forth. And I really learned the business there, so to speak.
Just for our listeners, a wirehouse broker was typically a full-service broker with multiple branches offering research, investment advice, and order execution. So Bennett, it sounds like you got off to a good start.
Yeah, this is quite a while back. This was now back in the 1980s. So the internet, online technology really wasn't something that was mainstream. In fact, the internet was really used to just transfer data back and forth between different departments and organizations back then. And so a lot of the knowledge that I had gained about the markets in the beginning came from working at these places. And there's so many different parts to the industry. There's the sales part, there's the trading part, there's the analyst part. So I've had a little experience in all those areas, but I was really drawn to trading. And I was drawn to that because of really the entrepreneurship that is available in running your own business as a trader. So, I love the markets. I love the trading aspect of it. And the fact also, too, at that time, the technology was beginning to take hold. So we had a lot of in-house systems that were pretty far ahead of what was available retail. And that was always a lot of fun to get involved in that and really being on the cutting edge of that.
So you were working in the wirehouses. How did you make that transition from that position to independent trader?
Well, that's a really good question. And, if you go back to that time period, it was really in the 1980s and early part of 1990s that really anybody could make a transition out of a major wirehouse into basically their living room and trade from their house, because at that particular point, technology was starting to come about, certainly not in the same way it is today, not as advanced, but it was available. And I would say really when we got into the 1990s, that was the first. There were a few brokerages only that were allowing people to have online accounts. And don't forget there, you had brokerages that were pretty much full service. So they really hadn't rolled over, so to speak, yet to an online environment. So the pickings were very few of, who you could use in terms of brokerage services to actually trade out of your home. So the transition eventually was that when I was in a major wirehouse, I was managing money for high net worth people. And then eventually I went over into my own situation where I took those skills and started managing my own money from my house. And then everything blossomed from there. Technology kept increasing. It became a little bit easier. But it was really a crucial step in going from having to be in a wirehouse to not. I mean, that was a big deal in terms of the changing environment.
Technology made that so easy for so many people who wanted to do it for so long, but they just didn't have the technology to make that happen. And when the technology came along, there was that amazing boom in independent traders.
Yeah, it was really something. And I got to be honest with you too, Mike, is back then, TradeStation was one of the early pioneers in having a charting platform that focused on technical analysis, because that was another movement that was coming back then is, before you'd call your broker and they would check with their analysts and give you a recommendation, and that was their form of active trading. But what happened is that eventually technical analysis started becoming more mainstream, and really TradeStation was on top of that. They came out with really one of the first major charting platforms for the regular person to be able to use from their home. I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember when they had TradeStation and you'd have to activate it with the dongles?
I do remember. I'm not sure if I ever told you, but I was a client for many years before I came to work for TradeStation, so I'm very proud of my dongle, and I'm pretty sure it's a collector's item at this point.
I still have mine as well. It's pretty funny.
So Bennett, one of the things that I always liked about your approach to education as far as trading goes is that you take a three-prong approach, right? You talk about entry and technical analysis, you focus a lot on risk management and trade management, but you also talk about the psychology of trading. Let's start off with your philosophy on how you generate trade ideas.
Okay, well, that is important. One of the first things I think you have to be able to do is have some form to scan the markets. You know, the markets are huge today, thousands and thousands of stocks, not to mention the event of Forex, ETFs now, futures markets. Don't forget the E-minis on futures too. So there's a ton of markets that anyone can trade. So the idea is, how do you find the best trading markets? What we do is we use Radar Screen, which is built into TradeStation.
Yeah, Radar Screen is great. I use it every day. The ability to put technical, historical indicators that you would normally only use in a chart on one symbol, the ability to put that same indicator on 100 symbols or 1,000 symbols in Radar Screen at any bar interval to look for opportunities, that's incredible.
And then we have also developed some custom indicators that we use to help us scan the markets. For example, we have something called the Elliot Wave Scanner. We have the Trade Confirmer and the Turbo Scanner. And what these do when working in conjunction with each other is that they scan all these markets and deliver to us the best setup. So I think step one is you got to find the correct markets. And then, of course, too, what kind of patterns, what are you looking for is very important. This is where the scanners can help you find those patterns that you're looking for. So we really rely on Radar Screen a great deal as that first step in finding what we can trade.
A lot of people out there have heard of Elliot Wave. Can you give us a general overview of what Elliot Wave is trying to accomplish?
We actually call the Elliot Wave, Mike, the roadmap of the markets. And the reason we do this is because it's excellent at delivering target zones, price ranges for the end of trends in certain pullback areas, corrections in the trends. And basically, the Elliot Wave was discovered by Ralph Nelson Elliott way back in the 30s and 40s. And when I say discovered, I really mean that because it wasn't something he developed. It was something he observed in the marketplace. So what he observed is that trends move in certain patterns. And these patterns broke down to 5 waves in a trend, both bullish and bearish. Now, there's a bunch of rules associated with that, but in a generic sense, that is what the Elliott Wave is, that trends move in these patterns of 5 on all different time frames. So when you know how to use the Elliott Wave, it is great because when you tie that in, also it gets tied in with Fibonacci extensions and retracements, then you can actually go ahead and develop a trading strategy all around the Elliott Wave. And then if you have some pattern recognition software like what we use, then that dictates the entries. And the idea is you want to go in the direction of the trend thanks to the Elliott Wave.
You also use Elliott Wave, though, for technical exits, correct?
Yes. In other words, it's for timing primarily. You don't want to be going long when you're late in a trend. And by the same token, if your system is generating an exit, then you want to see where you are in the Elliott Wave to see if that exit makes sense or not. So the two really are kind of married. They're tied together.
Got it. So Bennett, let's talk about how you approach trade management and risk management, setting profits and exit levels, trade size, those kinds of things.
Yeah, well, trade management is a really important part of being a successful trader. There's so many pieces to what I call the trading pie, Mike, and management is right up there, of course, with one you have to master, like them all. But when you enter a trade, one of the things you have to really have at that particular point is a couple different things. Psychology has to be in line. You have to be confident of the trade, optimistic of the trade. Yet at the same time, you can't be cocky. You can't enter a trade without realizing that even some of the best trades that you analyze and go into turn out as losers. So you always have to protect yourself. You have to have that mindset where you're kind of in sync with the aspect of each trade, okay, could end up as a potential loss. So you need to wear your seatbelt, so to speak, when you get into that trade car every time you drive, okay? So the analogy there is you must use risk control in every trade. And I think that's a big part of trade management, is to first really realize you need to do that, because once you've protected yourself, then you've eliminated the anxiety or fear that can occur if something goes wrong with the trade. And I think with trade management, the whole point of it is to keep you calm and to keep you objective in the trade so you can make good rational decisions. And then once you're in the trade, you need to have a very structured approach in how you're going to move your stops and where they should be. And you should be trading pretty calmly at this time, regardless of the time frame. You don't want to feel ever like you're gambling. You don't want to ever feel like, you're so stressed out that at the end of a trading day, you're just wiped out. If you're doing that, chances are you haven't mastered one of these pieces of the pie that you need to master in terms of money management and also, too, the management of your position.
That brings up the point of trader psychology. I know that that's something that you talk about a lot. And I think what you're saying here is that if you've approached the risk management correctly, you've got the right trade size, you know where you're going to exit, a lot of those psychological issues and problems that people have kind of go away if they've got a good plan.
Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head.
So Bennett, I know that you're a martial arts expert and instructor, and I'm wondering if there is a link between your martial arts and your trading.
Wow, that's a good question, Mike. I really think there is, and I'll tell you why. I think one of the things that martial arts teaches you is that things don't happen overnight, and you have to practice and practice a lot. And I think you can already see the correlation that might have with trading and becoming good at trading. Good trading doesn't happen overnight. You really have to work at it, and you have to be persistent and never give up. I think those are the two big items that are both the same with martial arts and trading. You have to get good instruction. That's the other good thing. I happen to have gotten very lucky with martial arts and got taught by some of the very best people. And so I learned really good technique, really good form, and then just kept at it. And I think that is so true with trading. You need to get good education. You need to learn about risk control. You need to learn about developing your psychology. And there's all these areas where you're not going to be perfect in them, but you need to be aware of them and work on trying to be as good as you can. And when that happens, you tend to go to higher levels. In martial arts, no matter what degree you are, there's always somewhere else to go. There's a higher degree. There's always something else to learn. And I think the same is true with trading. No matter what level you're at, there's always a little bit higher level you can go. So I don't think the education really ever stops. I think it comes in different forms. You may have more technology that you need to master and learn. Charting platforms may start to become more robust, and you have to learn all about those. So that type of training where you're constantly doing something a little bit every day in order to get better pays off. I love this line, I'm an overnight success after 30 years. You ever hear that line? And that's so true, I think, with martial arts and trading. You always seem like an overnight success to people, but really they don't see all the time you really put into it.
Yeah, that's a really great point. A lot of the traders that I know who've been at it for a long time, they say the same thing. They're always learning, they're always redefining their systems and their strategies, and they're always growing, and that's what keeps their trading fresh.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also, too, having balance. The other thing that martial arts provides for me, it's an outlet to actually do something different than trading for a little while, and it kind of keeps you grounded, keeps you balanced. So I think it's important to have some type of hobby or some type of recreational thing you can do to step away from it sometimes and don't become so absorbed in it. You understand that it becomes like a total obsession. You've got to be careful about that because that affects your judgment, and that will come out also in your trading.
It's all about balance. You've got to be able to take your mind off some of the more stressful, more intense things that you're doing throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Well, Bennett, unfortunately, we're just about out of time here, but I'm wondering if you could spend these last few minutes talking a little bit about what happens day to day at tradingcoach.com.
Okay, sure, Mike. Actually, I kind of wear two hats. I have the hat of a trader, and then I also have the hat of the founder and runner of TradersCoach.com. So the website and everything was kind of an interesting history in itself. The website really came around kind of by accident. In other words, I was actually managing money back in the 1990s. And we formed TradersCoach.com because I had several clients that wanted to know what I was doing on a weekly basis with their money. Can you blame them? All right. So, we had this situation back then. It was text chat, but we had a whole bunch of forms that we used to put on the website. We didn't sell anything. It was just for customer clients with accounts. And eventually that morphed into more and more. People wanted to know, how are we making our trading decisions? We were very successful, so people were always questioning it. So that eventually led to offering our software for sale when the technology caught up to that particular area where software was being developed for traders. And it just kept morphing into educational services and so forth. So it's really kind of interesting in that TradersCoach.com was really never designed as a portal to sell things. It was designed more for customer support and morphed into a website where it is today, where we offer educational content, software in the forms of trading tools, etc. One of the things that we really hold very dear to our heart is customer service. I really think in the entire industry that our customer support services are among the best there is out there. We really take that seriously. When somebody purchases software, for example, we actually go onto their computers. It's included with the purchase, get them all set up. They have 30 days of unlimited remote access with one of our technicians. Any problems that they have, we get back to them right away. And so we try to be very accessible. I think in today's modern world where software is sold, you don't always find that personal connection. So it's been really one of my pet peeves to make sure that we maintain that personal connection between us and the client. So that's one of the things that we do. I also hold a webinar every Wednesday for our clients only where they can come and ask questions. So if they're looking at a stock and they want me to take a look at it, or they're having an issue on how do they make some setting change for the software, we can help them right there on the spot. That's been a really good service for people. And again, we don't charge for that. It's all included with the purchase of the software. So that's kind of cool. In addition to that, each and every day, we have about 150 emails come into us from either support inquiries to new sales and so forth. So Jean, my wife Jean, handles really the administrational part of that. And she'll be on the phone with clients and anybody she needs to take care of their questions and so forth that come in. And then, of course, part of our whole thing at TradersCoach.com is making sure the website content is very up-to-date and active. We like to create very first-rate videos. And as you know, that's a technology that's constantly changing. So you constantly got to be up-to-date on that. So we wear a lot of different hats. Some of it's marketing, some of it's customer service. And this is just within the Traders Coach umbrella. On the other side, we haven't even really talked about the active trading. All right, that's another hat that I wear during the day because I've got to be active in the markets. And then, of course, as the markets close, then I put my other hats on and change into TradersCoach.com man. so that's kind of the way we run the operations around here. And I'll tell you, the other thing that's really fun is we have fun here. I mean, this is something that I love to do. I love trading. It's been a real fun adventure. And, as the technology progresses, it's going to change in the future.
Well, again, I want to thank Bennett McDowell for spending this time with us today. This was really great. And you can discover more about Bennett at tradingcoach.com. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Be sure to tune in and subscribe to more of our TradeStation podcasts. And of course, don't forget to visit our website at www.tradestation.com to learn more about our outstanding educational resources and online brokerage services. The preceding podcast was for educational purposes only. All of the symbols and trading ideas discussed by the instructors and guests were for educational purposes and not recommendations. Active trading is not suitable for everyone. Options trading carries a high degree of risk. You can find the characteristic and risks of standardized options disclosure and additional disclosures on the TradeStation website.